house creaked and groaned around me. A familiar symphony of settling wood and whistling drafts. I'd lived alone in this place for 10 years, ever since my grandmother passed. It was perched on a hill overlooking the town, isolated but with a commanding view. People in town thought it was spooky, but to me, it was just home. Tonight, however, the familiar sounds felt different. An unfamiliar tension hung in the air, thick and cloying like fog. A storm was brewing outside, the wind howling like a mournful wolf, and rain was beginning to slash against the window panes. I was curled up on the sofa with a book, a thick quilt wrapped around me, when the first knock came. It was sharp and insistent, 3 quick raps that cut through the noise of the storm like a knife. I frowned, glancing at the grandfather clock in the hall. It was nearly midnight. Who on earth would be out in this weather at this hour? My nearest neighbor was a mile down the winding, muddy road. No one ever just dropped by. I pulled the quilt tighter, my heart starting to beat a little faster. Maybe it was just a branch thrown against the door by the wind. I tried to go back to my book, but the words blurred. The house fell silent, save for the storm's fury. Then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time, more demanding. It was definitely not a branch. This was deliberate. A cold knot of fear tightened in my stomach. I wasn't expecting anyone. I never had visitors this late. Slowly, I slid off the sofa, my bare feet cold on the wooden floor. I tiptoed to the door, my breath held tight in my chest. The old-fashioned peephole was a small brass circle, tarnished with age. I hesitated. A part of me screamed not to look, to just retreat to my room and pretend no one was there. But curiosity, that foolish, fatal human trait, won out. I put my eye to the peephole. At first, all I saw was darkness, the porch light having burned out weeks ago. Then, a flash of lightning illuminated the scene outside. My breath hitched in my throat. Standing on my porch was a little girl, no older than 7 or 8. She was drenched, her blonde hair plastered to her face, wearing a simple white dress that was now gray with rain and mud. She was just standing there, her head bowed, small shoulders trembling. My fear instantly warred with a wave of pity. A child alone in this storm? How did she get all the way up here? I should open the door. I had to help her. My hand moved towards the deadbolt, but then another flash of lightning lit up the porch. This time, I saw her face. Her head was tilted up slightly, and her eyes were fixed directly on the peephole. They were wide and unnervingly dark, bottomless pits in her pale face. And she was smiling. It wasn't a child's smile of relief or hope. It was a wide, predatory grin that stretched too far across her face, showing too many teeth. A primal terror seized me, colder than the wind outside. I stumbled back from the door, my hand flying to my mouth to stifle a scream. My mind raced. This wasn't a lost child. This was something else. Something wrong. The knocking started again, but it had changed. It wasn't a polite rap anymore. It was a rhythmic, hypnotic thump. Thump, thump. That seemed to echo the frantic pounding of my own heart. Then a voice, sweet as honey but laced with ice, drifted through the thick oak of the door. I know you're in there. It could. It's so cold out here. Won't you let me in? It was the voice of a little girl, yet it carried an ancient weight, a chilling authority that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I scrambled away from the door, backing into the living room, my eyes wide with panic. I couldn't speak. I couldn't scream. Please? The voice wheedled, its tone shifting to a pathetic whimper. I'm scared of the storm. The thumping stopped, replaced by what sounded like tiny fingernails scratching against the wood. Scrape, scrape. Scrape! The sound was like nails on a chalkboard, grating on my very soul. I pressed myself against the far wall, as far from the door as I could get, my eyes glued to the brass doorknob. Don't answer the door. The thought was a frantic mantra in my head. My grandmother's words from long ago echoed in my memory. This house is old, she'd told me, her voice serious. It has seen things. If you ever hear a knock after midnight, no matter what it sounds like, you don't answer. You hear me. You don't ever answer. At the time, I'd dismissed it as an old wives' tale, a spooky story to tell a grandchild. Now it felt like a sacred law I had come dangerously close to breaking. The scratching stopped. Silence descended again, a heavy, waiting silence. I held my breath, listening. Was she gone? Had she given up? A minute passed. Then two. The only sound was the howling wind. Slowly, tentatively, I began to relax. Maybe it was over. Maybe my mind had played tricks on me, amplifying the strangeness of the night. Just as I took a shaky breath of relief, a deafening bang shook the entire house, as if something had been thrown against the door with incredible force. I shrieked, jumping in fright. You can't hide from me. The voice was no longer sweet or childlike. It was a guttural, demonic roar that didn't belong to any child or any human. It was a sound of pure rage and ancient hunger. The doorknob began to jiggle violently, rattling in its socket. The heavy deadbolt I had moments ago almost unlocked was now the only thing between me and that thing. The wood of the door frame groaned under the assault. I could see the door bending inward with each thunderous impact. It wouldn't hold for long. Panic gave me strength. I ran, not looking back. I flew up the stairs, my heart threatening to burst from my chest. I didn't stop at my bedroom. I went straight for the attic, the one place with a heavy, bolt-able door. I yanked the pull cord, the flimsy ladder clattering down. I scrambled up, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get a grip. Once inside, I kicked the ladder away and slammed the heavy trapdoor shut, fumbling with the thick iron bolt and sliding it into place. I huddled in the dusty darkness of the attic, listening. The banging downstairs continued, a relentless, furious pounding that seemed to shake the very foundations of my home. Splintering wood, cracking plaster. The roar came again, closer now, inside the house. It had gotten in. I clamped my hands over my ears, squeezing my eyes shut, rocking back and forth amidst the forgotten relics of my family's past. I could hear it moving through the house. It's heavy, unnatural footsteps echoing on the floorboards below. It was searching for me. The footsteps stopped directly beneath the attic door. A terrifying silence fell. And then, the scratching began again. Right on the trapdoor, just inches from my head. Scrape! 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 I know where you are, the sweet, terrible voice whispered. It sounded muffled but clear, right there with me in the darkness. You'll have to come out eventually. And I can wait. If you enjoyed this creepy story, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling horror stories every week. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a scare. And remember, if you ever hear a knock after midnight, don't answer the door.